These are on, right? I turn them on. Yeah, good. I could tell. Excellent. We have two lights on. That means we got sound. Should we make sure that Kobe can hear us? Kobe, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you wonderfully well. Thank you, Chris. Okay. All right, here we go.
The volume is up.
I would like to call the November 1st Economic Development Subcommittee meeting for 2023, at 5:30 to order. Note to residents, all citizens are welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are also live streamed and archived by Franklin TV on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel. Meetings are also shown live on repeat and on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 29. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens are welcome to continue to participate remotely via phone or Zoom. The Zoom link is on the agenda on the town website. The call-in number is 1-929-205-6099. The meeting ID number is 852-2367-2869.
264.
I said it wrong. Hold on. 852-2364. Is that better? That's better. 2869. Then press the pound button. And then you can join us if you'd like to make a comment. Tonight, Councilor Frangillo is via Zoom. In the chamber with me is Councilor Sheridan, Councilor Jones, and the town administrators, and Brian Taberner is here. So on the agenda, participants are muted upon entering onto the Zoom platform and will not be able to unmute themselves without permission from the Zoom host. To request permission to unmute, please use the raise hand function on your Zoom screen. Okay. Great. On tonight's agenda, we have one item, continuing the discussion of the 40R bylaw and overlay districts, smart growth overlay districts that we started. Was that 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago. And so, should I throw it to you, Jamie, or does Brian want to come up and start?
All Brian.
All Brian. It's all Brian tonight.
All Brian.
So, take it away, Brian.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Brian Taberner, Director of Planning and Community Development. Thank you, Chair Hamlin. And you have attached to the agenda, there was a draft, and I stress draft, a preliminary draft bylaw related to a Chapter 40R Smart Growth Overlay Zoning District, which we are proposing. We start out by saying that we don't actually have any place on the ground today that we're saying we want one right in this specific location. This is strictly if one were to be located where we have a developer or property owners wanting to come forward, and they would like to do this, we will identify a location on a zoning map, and these regulations would then go to you first and then town council for an adoption of the zoning bylaw as necessary. So let me tell you what it involves in general, and then we can take some questions if you'd like. First of all, the areas that we do identify eventually, they need to be added a short description of what that is. Let's just say it's 300 Fisher Street or whatever that happens to be the address or the location. You create the name for a smart growth overlay district, and you add it to this. You'll have a zoning map amendment, which will be applied. You'll have this specific bylaw amendment where that actual overlay district would be put into section 18552B2. If you can identify one, two, or multiple overlay zoning districts. It does not have to be just one. So this bylaw would apply to any overlay districts that you create.
Okay.
All right. And the difference between, there can be major differences between the different overlay districts that you create, though. For instance, if you have one that's in an industrial zone and you have another one that's in a residential zone or whatever, they may not be, you may not want the same exact development in each thing, but these regulations would apply to both. What you would do is, in addition to creating a bylaw, putting overlay districts on the map, and adding in 40R related definitions into the zoning bylaw in section 185.3. That's something that you don't have in front of you. There'll be probably about a dozen definitions related to this bylaw
Okay.
that will be added in, okay? So those are the different steps. In addition to that, each district can have its own design guidelines,
Ah,
okay? So you can create your own, not only design, but dimensional regulations that apply to that overlay. Okay? So that's where your specific details of the overlay districts come in place.
right, so
So-
it doesn't have to be exactly the same.
No.
They can be different.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And they
like your
likely will
example
be.
of industrial versus residential,
That's
we
right.
can kind of,
Right, exactly.
okay,
Yeah, and
That's great.
there may be a district that is in one residential district and one that's in another, and you don't want exactly the same either. So, there's the differences, right?
Right.
So having all the same dimensional requirements, design requirements in all districts doesn't really make sense. If you really want to do, you want the zones to mix in with your community the best you can. You want it to be a positive for all of the different districts. So therefore, you're dealing with different types of possible design guidelines.
okay.
Okay. There's one additional thing that we will need to create, and that is, actually has nothing to do with, it's just actually for the planning board. They need to create regulations themselves on how to address the application coming in, and what they, will they require a certain amount of documents, and, it's similar to all the other things that we do with planning board. Somebody comes in with a site plan, there's certain requirements,
Yeah,
but we will develop a page or two specific for the 40R districts.
so it would be like a process page or
It's
something, like
process,
these are the
exactly.
steps.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because they do need to go through the planning board. They are the permitting authority on these projects.
Right.
Okay. So, in general, that's where we're at. As far as the affordable housing component, which one thing I wanted to mention is the state requires at least 20% affordable units, okay? But if you had a multifamily housing development and you had 20% affordable units, it would, only 20% of those affordable units would go on our SHI, our actual inventory. If we were to have 25% affordable units, then all of the units would go on it,
Okay.
okay? So if somebody comes in with 50 units of housing, they have to have at least 10, okay? But if they have 25%, all 50 go on the inventory.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
big difference.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
I am going to recommend that we write which we did, we write the zoning at 25 is required for the town. And if the council wants to debate that, of course, later on, that's fine. But that's where we're at right now on this, on the zoning bylaw. I think if we're going to have more affordable housing, we should get as much as we can out of each project, and we should get credit for as much, obviously, also from the
Right.
state. The benefit is in multiple ways.
Yep.
And I did have one other thing. Yeah, so as far as the density, the minimum density on multifamily, and I'm talking multifamily right now, but you can have smart growth districts that have single-family homes or duplexes or, whatever. But on a multifamily situation, which is, I think, in most cases, what we're going to end up with, because you're redeveloping a lot of the properties that these will likely go into. Isn't that much undeveloped land that we're going to have these type of developments in. So it's likely they're going to be multifamily developments. At least 20% of, wrong 20 here. 20 units per acre are required.
Okay.
So we can allow a denser area if we want to, but it has to be at least be 20 units, okay, by the state requirement.
Okay.
Which is,
And that's
which is exactly what we have in the downtown.
Downtown,
right now.
right. Yeah.
Okay. And that's about it. If this is really specific, I mean, we could go over the whole bylaw, but in general, and I just want to, again, stress that this is a preliminary draft. I have a couple of, every time I go over it, I find one or two more things that I want to just adjust or whatever, but in general, it's where it is. The affordable housing requirements are very similar to what we have in inclusionary zoning, except numbers or whatever, but it's pretty much the same structure as that, as our inclusionary zoning.
Okay.
And that's one of the areas I want to go through with Maxine, who's our housing person in my department. I want to label, put them both down next to each other and make sure that both of them
They're
make
the same.
sense, and before it ever went public and we actually said that this is what we want.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why it's a preliminary draft. Does anybody have any questions that they have want specific information on?
Counselor Jones?
Thank you. Brian, just going back to the 25% affordable portion where the 100% of the project would become part of the numbers. We have a tough enough time getting people to build. How much of a deterrent do you think actually having that kind of requirement would be? Because ultimately we would benefit because it's all the units that the developer is building, but what's going to incentivize them to build an apartment building where 25% of the units are going to be affordable?
Right. Right now, as you know, there's many types of development, many types of housing development even, right? So you think about the 40B concept. If they're coming forward with a 40B, the dimensional regulations, the use everything inside our zoning, they try to wave all that away, right? So they get it down to it's buildable for them, they can make things work financially.
Right.
The 40R does the same basic thing. You're going to have people coming to you and saying, I would like to put a 40R overlay in this area here, and I'm planning to a development in that area. To do that, I need X, Y, and Z. Okay? If it works, then you end up creating the design guidelines for that specific overlay district based on that. So it is one way to do things, or you can do things in a lot more restrictive way and say it has to be this, it has to be this, it has to be this, and then probably people look at it and say, "Oh, this may never happen."
Right. Are they?
But we
they just
want,
say, forget it.
if you want this to work in certain areas, and most cases, like I said, it's redevelopment of properties. If you want it to work, then you will end up meeting the developer halfway, at least, on a lot of these issues. And then, once your guidelines are you're established and you're all set, then it goes to planning board. So they shouldn't be having too many issues at that point. But of course, if you make an overlay district with 20 parcels, and you're making a design guidelines for that one developer you know that's going to come in, maybe the other 18 or 19 property owners don't agree and they want something different. So therefore, it can get a little conflicting, if you will, as far as, So therefore, I think I'm going to stress to try to create overlay districts that are not overly large, that are, if you know what one person wants and you want to include another couple of properties next to it, because they could probably redevelop them, go ahead. But if you make it a whole big area, I think you're gonna have a problem. You could have one here and you could have one an eighth of a mile up the street, a separate zoning overlay district. You don't have to have them all the same one. So anyway, I think that's the best way to work with the developers and to try to get what is best for them and the community, and that's what you want to do with these kind of projects. It has similarities to a 40B or something, but it's not a 40B. It doesn't go to the ZBA. It doesn't have the comprehensive permit situation. It is a total different animal in reality. So anyway.
So you partially answered the question I was going to ask, and that's about how large and does this fall under kind of a potential conflict with spot zoning if we were to actually just put this zone, put this overlay zone
Right.
over just say 2 parcels, and it just so happens to be the same person who owns both parcels.
Right.
That kind of looks dicey. So we have to be
I
very
would-
wary about where
Yeah, I did run that by Mark Sorrell, and Mark was actually pushing for this concept opposed to going with the bigger districts. It's one of the times when, it's almost like you have a development agreement with another, with the person, the town and the developers have an agreement. It's not exactly that, but that's the kind of the concept in which there may be people that say, oh, that's spot zoning or whatever, but that's not really, has not been addressed. These projects, similar to what we're proposing, have been going on for years around the state. I don't believe there's any issue with spot zoning on very small developments, small zones. And therefore, Mark is telling me that that we should go forward with that type of concept, and that's fine.
All right.
Sounds
I mean,
fair.
you could, one of the things that's funny about, zoning overlays and things, you can create different types of zones and everything in big areas, hoping that the whole world's gonna change in that
Right.
area. But if you haven't already talked to the property owners in advance and you haven't really worked
Right.
things out specifically, you're wasting a lot of time. So
Okay.
that's why we're not proposing to go today
Yeah.
to get this passed at
Right.
town council.
Right.
We want to actually have a developer that is interested in doing something in a specific location. And then
Right.
if the adjacent property owners want to be included also, then great.
So just no different than our biotech overlay districts or medical marijuana overlay districts or medical overlay districts. We're overlaying certain portions of the town with the hopes that adding these additional types of zonings will potentially interest the people in developing in those areas.
Well, that's exactly what overlays are.
Right.
And this overlay is a little bit different in that you're developing specific guidelines for those overlays.
That's
In a
good.
biotech overlay, you go with the underlying zoning.
Right.
Right? But in this case, you're creating your own zoning for that overlay. Your own dimensional and use regulations for that.
I know. I'm waiting for you to give up the
That's-
floor.
That's my final question.
I can see his hand.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor Frangillo.
Yeah, thank you. And I do apologize that I've been stuck in traffic trying to get back from work, so my thoughts might not be as coherent as if they were written in front of me. The difference between, and I think Councilor Jones is touching upon the exact right point. Thank you so much, Brian, for going through and doing this research and presenting a good draft. But the difference between what we're doing is typically an overlay district is saying, hey, here's a type of, here's an area of town that we are looking to welcome a certain type of development, and we want to send out this market signal to say, hey, you're in this area. When you go to sell your building or you go to renovate your building, here are certain things that we're going to allow for you and encourage. A reminder about what 40R is. I mean, we're talking about it as though it's a gift to developers. 40R is a gift to us, right? We know that we have affordable housing needs. We know that we have a downtown that has underutilized properties that could use with more local customers and more mixed-use spaces downtown. Here is an opportunity to not only get more of what we want, but the state actually gives us money if we get those things, and it adds to our affordable housing thing. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and we went out, right?
I'm
we
sorry,
made,
Kobe.
You sure about that?
Kobe, can you like repeat what you said after I'm really excited about this opportunity? Because we all agreed with you, and then we missed what you said.
Okay.
If you remember.
Jeez. Well, I mean, okay. We went out, right? We had some ideas about how to, revitalize the downtown, bring some life, meet some of our housing and economic needs downtown, as well as our property values to help pay for the things in the budget. And we went out and we knocked down some of our ideas. We said, time out, let's go out and get some outside contractor to look at a whole bunch of towns and come back and give us advice. They went out to this long process, talked to a whole bunch of people inside of town, outside of town, brought on a whole planning staff. Their number one recommendation was to make a 40R district downtown. Their number one recommendation was that. And so I'm wondering why we're falling short of that. Yes, I know that we're creating a 40R, but what we're saying is that we're going to do that. We're going to have it on the books, but you as a developer have to know that we have it, come to us with an idea, and then walk through a project, which takes tons and tons of time. The idea is, no, we're going to go out, set the vision, set the design standards for what we want, tell you where it is that we want them, tell you how much affordable it is that we want, because these are projects that we want in our town, and then we don't even have to know the properties already, right? We don't have to know if Depot Plaza is ready to sell a space because it's already in that district, right? So whenever they do decide to sell or renovate, they have an opportunity. They meet the normal zoning, fine, that's the normal process. But if they want to give us more of what we want, more affordable housing, more mixed use, stricter design standards, then we already have that in place. All right, we've made that a super, super easy process for them to do. So, if my point's not clear enough, it's that I love all of what we're doing. I just think we should actually define a district and set design standards and affordability and everything that we want that district to look like. And I think we should put that in the downtown as MAPC recommended. And I will just say one more point to that. I always am going to, some of my favorite downtowns and wondering how they do it. And I talk to different planners in different towns. And one of the downtowns that I love that's in a town similar to ours is the town of Reading. Now, Reading has a beautiful downtown, very similar to ours, but it's had a whole bunch of recent revitalization. I went and talked to the planner. What do they have? A 40R district. They didn't do spot zoning. They went and said, here's our downtown, here are the types of things, and I think they got 2, 3, maybe 4 beautiful properties that they didn't have already identified, but by the time they came forward, they had the district in place and were able to add to their affordable housing. And I mean, I really recommend checking out some of those properties. They're absolutely gorgeous because they got to, have that much control over the design and then welcome them and make it really, really easy for the market to actually provide those units. Anyway, that was my long-winded thoughts. This is all to say, good job, Brian. Let's go bigger.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. I hope, make sure you're watching the road, okay? It's good. It's all good. I think Brian wants to respond to you.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, I think there are pros and cons to going in either direction, whether you go for a specific project first or you go with a larger district. I understand what Councilor Frangillo is saying. The the number one thing that I would like to stress is we don't have a district in mind today, okay? So maybe we do, as a town, go with a bigger district, or we go, right off the bat, we want to have 3 different, overlay districts, different 40R
Right.
districts. Maybe we're going to do that. But today, what we're doing, the reason for this, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the process. Creating a district is something you need to do, and we're not going to go forward with a bylaw. But the bylaw with the general structure of 40R overlays are in place with the document that we're creating right now,
Gotcha.
Okay,
okay?
yep,
So if you want to go and you want to do all of downtown as a smart growth 40R overlay district, then fine. I mean, we can do that. But I think that in doing a bigger one, then you're looking at the, let's just say, setbacks and, building setbacks, your parking, your impervious coverage, and a lot of other issues. If you do 50 acres, is that whole 50 acres going, in the overlay district going to have the same dimensional requirements? And then somebody comes along and says, oh, gee, I wish I had a little bit more density here, or I could just, or whatever the case may be. So you either give this whole district the world, so anything happens,
right,
or you are a little bit more restrictive in doing smaller areas. Now, we could look at a zoning map and we could identify half a dozen parcels that we think, hey, I hope this area here really gets
right,
done, and we could put an overlay on that. But if you make it 12 or 20, are the same dimensional regulations, use regulations, all of that, should they all be exactly the same? If so, then we can create a bigger district,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So I think it really is, I think the first thing is you get somebody interested in doing something with us. And hopefully we're going to have something over the next few months or whatever. I don't know for sure. But I hope we do. And
Yeah.
at that point, we can look at a map and say, not only these couple parcels here, we want to increase it to these 10,
Right.
or whatever the
okay,
case may be.
okay,
Or if we get, by some miracle, we have 2 people, two different neighborhoods that want to do this, and in a few months from now, and the town council is ready to go forward with all of this, we have 2 separate overlay districts, and they don't have to be 1 or 2 parcels. We can make them a little bit bigger in each of those zoning districts.
right. And then in each overlay, sorry for
Correct.
interrupting you, but each overlay
Correct.
could have its own requirements,
Exactly.
its own design,
Right,
right?
right.
And so like if you were in like downtown versus maybe Alpine Way or something like that, a little bit, maybe you want something's a little bit different there than you would want downtown. Would that be an example
Correct.
that you're, yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And we could call them new villages.
Right, so doing it the way that
Thank
I'm proposing gives us, up until the point where we actually want to go forward and put something on a map.
Yeah,
We don't have to have projects that are ready to go forward, or some developer that says, I want this. We can do it wherever we want. We can create overlay districts all over the place, but I don't think that, I don't think it's the right thing to do, but it's not me that is making decisions. If we put something in front of the council, in front of you and your group, and then eventually council and the planning board, and we're going to get different opinions for sure.
Right.
And whatever we end up with, our department will do whatever is necessary to make it happen. But I think for now, this is the last meeting you have before your elections, and hopefully
We might not be here.
hopefully I hope you're all back, and we'll just go forward. A month or 2 later, we'll go back to this issue and go forward.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's really exciting to think about between now and then where we would envision these overlay districts, and then we can talk about it as a group.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kobe already has a list of
I'd like to see it.
yeah, and the design of it it, like what we want there. I think that, to me, is the exciting thing, is to make sure that we take what we learned in the Franklin for All project and bring it in to these overlay districts.
Yeah.
And so that,
And we can put this in the master plan.
yeah, and we'll put it in the master plan, and that's, to me, is really exciting to make sure, so that people don't worry, and there's a fear out there that we're gonna lose our, what makes Franklin, the uniqueness. And so I think, being able to, do different overlays is a really good thing. I have a question about the, affordability percentage. So if we have 25, can we have 25% in one overlay and 20 in another overlay, or are those negotiable? If the builder says, well, I can do this, but I can't do 25, I could do 23, something like that.
Well, the bylaws
You
set
can
up.
say no, the answer can be no.
Well, no, I think it's a little more than yes or no. The
Okay.
bylaws set up as a 25,
Right,
okay? But if you were to write the bylaw to be from 20 to 25%, or whatever the case may be, and it's specific, and in the district itself, or in section B2, where it's you can have that this will have 20%, or this one will have 25% or whatever.
Okay.
I think you can go either way, but I want to make sure on that.
okay, right, so you put in the
You'd have
bylaw
the
range, and then
flexibility.
each district could be a little different.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen, or what we're gonna find out, so,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Council,
We definitely don't know what Tyler is
right, I know, so it will be good. Counselor Sheridan, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Counselor Jones, any more?
No, this is
No.
good stuff. Let's move on.
Counselor
Let's take it
Frangillo,
to
any
the
more?
next
Let's see if he says, take it to the next council.
I do. Thank you, Brian. I'm aware that I'm getting a little ahead of myself, and there's a step that needs to be taken to get this in place. I'm fully in favor of that, it's the main question that you have for us is percentage. I also fully agree with the 25%. We're making something worth chasing after, and if it's something that's worth chasing after as a developer, then we want to make sure that we get our benefits out of that. So I do think that we can be a little extra aggressive here because, in theory, we're going to make this easier. So I appreciate that step. I'm excited to move forward. At risk of getting a little ahead of myself, and you are right. I do know the parcels that I want, and I've had that list, and MFAC provided us a little specificity over where they would recommend. So I hope this doesn't get pushed off too long as we take the next step. On a more conceptual point, sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy when we talk about these things. But the obsession with parcel by parcel control at every piece of the planning process might sound good in isolation, but is the very problem that leads to property slowly falling behind, because it's so much effort, because you need to bring such a legal team on, an engineering team on. It takes so much upfront financial risk that slows down development in the long term and prevents us from being where we want to be. So I think, we're not even talking about the baseline zoning anymore. Now we're saying, here's something that we can go out and ask for certain things, and we're still not able to relinquish our parcel by parcel control. I think that's something that we really need to talk about as a community about getting over if we want to become the town that we want to become and afford the services that we all currently enjoy. Just a little piece on that. And the short term, very happy with the proposal and excited to move it forward.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Well, I just wanted to say, Brian, I wanted to thank you for all the work you've done over this last term for us. I think we've pushed you pretty hard with the Franklin for All project and all of our zoning changes, and I want to just thank you and your staff for all your hard work. It's really, look, Kobe's clapping too. So there you go. We'll give you guys all of you down there.
he's driving?
I know.
Hold on, he's got his hands up.
Tell him to pull over.
Maybe he has Siri helping him, I don't know. But I, seriously, you've done a lot, and we rely on you, and we're really grateful to you.
Especially
Okay.
the zoning map cleanups.
That's done, that's done.
Well, keep the work coming, because that way we have a job.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean,
You want to have a stagnant town, and we have a job that's pretty easy. But
Yeah.
I think this.
we'll keep pushing,
I think the changes, are very important.
yeah,
I agree.
good. Thank you again. And with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Roll call vote. Counselor Frangillo?
Yes.
Counselor Sheridan?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Chairs, yes.
I look like.
Unanimous, non-debatable. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.